the game, cause see the boxing voice.
Welcome everyone to It's the Squared Circle with the Sport Swami only on ThaBoxingvoice.com. Join me on the line. This man here is going to be angling, you can bet, for a heavyweight title shot. Big things are here happening with him. As once again, I give you the pride and joy of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the PBC. I give you it's Eddie Chambers. Eddie, let's start off here with, as soon as Prince Charles Martin won the IBF heavyweight title, how quickly were you and your people just banging down the door at the PBC going, we want next. We want Prince Charles Martin, making Philadelphia, Boston, New Jersey, we don't care. We want the Prince in the IBF title.
Yeah, of course. It would be great. Obviously another title shot would be great, but we'll see. I mean, obviously, the guy just got the belt, so kind of give him a chance to see what's going on, with the rest of the division and who's available. So, we'll wait on it. We'll see what happens. It's not just him. There are other names. I mean, we don't have to go right into a world title shot right away. Obviously, it'd be very nice, but we wouldn't hesitate to take another fight. Before that, with a name opponent that suits us just fine.
I know you've been angling for a big fight for a long time now, whether it was Chris Arreola, but is Prince Charles Martin the one that brings everything? If you beat Martin, you can get a rematch. You can get a shot against Deontay Wilder. If you beat Charles Martin, you can then angle for a fight with a rematch, say, with Vladimir Klitschko. Or even if you really want, if you beat Charles Martin, you can get a fight with, down the line, Tyson Fury to become the undisputed heavyweight champion. How big is Prince Charles Martin? Is he plan A?
I mean, it really doesn't matter at this point. I mean, obviously, I would definitely want to get a world title shot, and if Charles Martin is that guy, it's perfect. But like I said, the Chris Arreola fight is also another one we have on our radar, and that would be really good if we can get something like that. And he's well known. He's got a great name. You know what I mean? He's the kind of guy that you would definitely not mind going in and fighting because of the fanfare and all of that stuff that goes into it. But like I said, Charles Martin has a title. Of course, Deontay Wilder has a title. Ruslan Chikaev has a title. These are all guys who are titleists. I would love that opportunity. The only one I wouldn't want to jump in with is Tyson. My guy. You know what I mean? I would definitely want to stay away from that kind of a fight. But everybody else is in play. And if I can get those opportunities, especially for a title, I'm not going to hesitate.
Years ago, you made a big change. You moved your training camp all the way from the United States to England. You changed trainers, and Tyson Fury and his camp are now training you, including Tyson's uncle, and also you're working with Hughie Fury. Why them? Why were they the people that you decided to train with, and what are some of the changes that you made along the way to become a better heavyweight down the road?
Oh, well, the first thing I noticed, obviously, when I went over there was, first I thought, these heavyweights, they're not going to train as hard as I'm used to training, because I train like lighter weight guys. So that's why I felt like, I'm going to be able to, work circles around them. Well, that wasn't true, because when I got there, the first thing they said was, okay, well, I was talking to Peter, and, we were talking about what's going to be happening, the game plan, and what we were going to be doing to get the weight on and everything. And he said, so we're going to start our first workout, which is at a certain time, such a time. Then he said the second workout. I said, okay, cool. And I guess we'll be done early. Then he said, no, the third workout. I said, wait a minute. You talking about 3 a day? He's like, yeah, we train 3 times a day, 5 days a week. I said, what? So, I mean, you hear about it, it sounds crazy. So I'm like, maybe the workouts aren't really nothing. Maybe they're okay. Man, every workout was at a crazy level of intensity. So I'm like, geez. So the first month almost, over it was more than a month. The first month I couldn't get out of bed like the right way. Every time whenever I laid down, whatever position I laid down in, I had to stay in. My body was so sore and beat up just from the sheer level of work that we had. It was nothing I could do. I had so many times I was just trying to figure out ways of telling Peter, look, man, I can't handle this no more. Maybe I'm old, but I need to go back home. And you're already missing your family too. So it was crazy. But of course, after a while, I kind of adapted to my body. Of course, your body will start to, find equilibrium with what it's going with. So it kind of worked out for me. and I would say from March till July, I felt superhuman. I mean, the work had me in a different level of athlete at that point. You know, so I was so excited that any fight that I could think of, I would have just jumped on with both feet. But just then came the problems with actually getting named guys in the ring. It was the kind of thing that, you know, you would try to call this guy out, call that guy out, try to set up things. Tyson had a big fight with Derek Chisora that was scheduled for the 26th of, or I think it was the 26th of July. And we just kept on, you know, like putting things out there. You know, we talked to Lucas and you know, Ricky Hatton and his people with Lucas Brown. And we talked to, you know, we were even talking to Tone, you know, Tone Thompson for you know, and it just, you know, it was nothing really, really locked in. And we were just looking for anything. Then, so we realized that it was going to be very difficult, you know, for Peter and for us to, you know, really do anything as far as getting to that next level, because guys at this point in my career, and the guys I was facing at the time, just, you know, wasn't drawing enough attention. You know what I mean? It wasn't good enough for them to say, okay, well, we'll fight Eddie for, you know, this amount of money. You know, you're fighting an elite level talent for you know, like say journeyman level money. You know, so it was just something they weren't really interested in.
You went starting your career with Dan Goosen, then you went with Main Events. You've always been a guy who stayed away from the big management. Now you've merged with Al Haymon in the PBC. Why them? What were they promising, and what are they offering to help you become a more prominent, high-profile fighter in the heavyweight division?
Well, you know, me and Peter talked, and I'm still definitely, by all means, a member and working with Team Fury. You know, we're close. Regardless of the boxing, we're going to be close. So, but you know, his thing was, look, you know, you got Al Haymon, who seems to be interested in signing you. You know, you're away from home here. You know, you can. You know, he said you're always welcome to come train with us. But the best bet for you, and this is what he was agreeing with this. He was saying your best bet is obviously to get back on American soil and, you know, get some American fans, get, you know, your people, you know, behind you. You know, so he said the best way to do that, and, you know, to get the good money and the good opportunities, because obviously there's a lot of heavyweights and a lot of fighters in general that Al Haymon has, and he's doing wonders for him. So he said, look, you know, I'm going to be a friend to you. I'm not trying to, you know, he said these contracts don't mean nothing. And, you know, we're going to work together. We're going to be together regardless. You go work with Al and do these things and get with a guy who's going to be able to land the big fights for you. And that's why I'm, you know, rather at this decision to be with Al, to work with Al.
Your last fight out was last year in New Jersey. You took on Galen Brown and won an impressive fourth-round knockout. But you want more. I know talking to you, you want bigger fights. What's the plan going forward with you? What's the plan to get, you know, a bigger fight either on the PBC, on Spike, Fox Sports 1, ESPN, Fox, even, dare I say, a fight on CBS or NBC?
Well, I'm in the process now of where we're trying to see who we can get, you know. We're talking to, you know, different, you know, there was talk of Areola and it's like that. We're very interested in those kinds of fights. Any of those stations, any opportunity like that presents itself with a name that makes sense for us, we'll be definitely willing to take. You know, I want to get back in the ring about the first quarter of 2016. You know, this is starting now, so, you know, I'm training and preparing, you know, not crazy, because I don't want to obviously be overtrained, but I'm definitely getting myself, you know, focused and, you know, the diet correct, the diet right, the training habits, the you know, all those things. Not necessarily camp atmosphere, but in that neighborhood. Just want to make sure that I'm ready, because you never know. You know, you're making a call out of nowhere and say, hey, man, we got about a month before you have to fight so-and-so. You just want to make sure that you're somewhat ready. We may not be completely ready. That's why we're going to at least get a month, but we'll be at least in the neighborhood, and we'll be able to, you know, set up, you know, the proper camp situation to, you know, maybe if like it was an Areola fight or a Charles Martin, any of these guys, we'll be able to actively prepare the proper way.
What happens when you achieve your ultimate goal? Let's say you run the table, you beat Prince Charles Martin, you end up beating Deontay Wilder, one of those two. And all that's left is Tyson Fury. I know you and Peter are close. I know that you and Tyson are close, you and Huey. But what happens when you get the ultimate goal? You want to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Do you then sit down with Peter and Tyson and go, look, I understand. I thank you guys for everything, but this is business. I would like to have because I want to achieve my dream. I want to get that big payday. At what point do you sit down with them and go, all right, it's time for us to have to meet to find out who is the best heavyweight in the world?
Well, that kind of a situation there, it's a matter of us talking. What makes sense for all of us? I'm not one to be, to fall for, I got to do this or I got to do that. I know I'm one of the best fighters in the world, especially if I win a world title and he has a world title. I'm happy with that necessarily. But if we say, look, this is going to be a life-changing fight for all parties involved, and we would probably, and one or the other would probably be very upset with the other one for not taking it. You know what I mean? And making it happen for the fans and for us too. If it turns out that way, we'll be able to talk it out and negotiate whether or not it's worth it for us beyond what the money that's coming or what the people say. We'll talk over what makes sense for us going forward. So if that ever was to happen, which I would love that to happen, I would love that. That would be a problem I would love to have. You know what I mean? Us being on top and running the sport, that would be great. Kind of like a Klitschko thing, you know what I mean? But only thing my last name is not actually Fury. But it would still be a nice thing a nice problem to have.
Well, once again, I give you, it is Fast Eddie Chambers. Looking forward to seeing him in action soon, only on the PBC. We come back, but we got a whole lot more here, only on ThaBoxingvoice.com presents The Squared Circle with the Sport Swami.
Ain't no other sight in the game could see the boxing voice.